Chris Creative, I believe a lot about last presidential election midterm polls and predictions, right? YouTubers showing black STEM switching parties. Look what happened. How do I believe any of these things going forward? What you're saying there, Chris, is absolutely clear. It's part of what I was trying to say at the end, just kind of mobilizing. Let's get out there. Let's vote. What we're seeing is a very clear discrepancy between the trajectories and the shift in society that everyone's seeing. So that's the key. Corroboration is key.
Hey, gang, up until now, the central bank digital dollar, CBDC, has been nothing more than a headline. But you may have noticed right now things are developing at a very rapid and very ominous pace. It started with a sweeping executive order from the Biden administration, and now central banks are out there even hiring for their development. Here's the thing, gang. A digital dollar can be used to track your purchases, control what you buy, and even seize or freeze your assets, just like what they did to the Freedom Convoy protesters. That's why it's absolutely critical you protect your money with precious metals like gold and silver. I've partnered with the top-rated precious metals company, Goldco, because they're a great company with an amazing reputation. Right now, they're giving you up to $10,000 in free silver while supplies last if you open up an account with them. And to make it even sweeter, gang, all qualified callers this week will receive a free Ronald Reagan silver coin. But that's a limited time offer, so don't wait. And definitely don't wait until all your money is under Biden's control. Click on that link below right now to learn how you can get started today.
If it's just a bunch of right-wingers pushing polls and left-wingers have their own polls, and they show two very different trajectories, then it's going to be really hard to try to figure out what's going on. We'll have to try to find some kind of third party to help corroborate one over and against the other. But when you're seeing both sides touting the same, they're seeing the same trends, but from different studies. And that's why I tried to give you a whole collection of them here. Then you know that's happening. Something's really happening there. But how it translates into actual political success is a whole nother story. So a very good example would be the difficulties of very successful Republican governors translating that success into a viable presidential run. Just ask Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is now polling in single digits. Okay, you probably saw that. So sorry if you're a DeSantis supporter. And I love Ron DeSantis. I think he's great. I love Trump more. I think this is Trump's election because I think this election comes down to the blue collar vote. And Trump is the blue collar, the working class candidate. Having said that, though, I think nevertheless, DeSantis has not. He's faced the Chris Christie curse. He's faced the Scott Walker curse. It is very, very hard to translate. And this is going to be the same thing with Gavin Newsom, by the way. It's very hard to translate local success into federal success. And there's just all kinds of weird reasons for that. Shenanigans, I'm sure, could be part of it. I don't know if that's so much the case with getting the nomination, but there's all kinds of weird things involved, ambiguous, vague things involved with translating local success into federal success. Right now, the state government map, red, blue state government map, should translate into a supermajority in Congress right now for the Republicans and a Trump presidency. There's just no other way of putting it. But somehow it gets lost in the translation there. And so what we have to keep doing is we have to keep pushing. We have to keep mobilizing. We have to keep organizing. We have to keep strategizing to overcome that barrier, that discrepant barrier between being incredibly successful at the local level, seeing these massive shifts to the right all over the place, but then translating it effectively, clearly, concisely into federal victory. And that's going to be the challenge. Once we do that, Chris, we should be good to go, because in many ways what happened in the Republican Party back in what happened in the Republican Party, like in California, for example. There's a very good study. I'll probably do a video on it next week on how to turn California red. There does seem to be some indicators that we can actually turn California red at least at the state level, if not a federal election. But one of the reasons why the Republican Party collapsed in California is that California is radically coastal. About 90% of its population lives in cosmopolitan coastal centers, city centers, San Francisco, LA, Sacramento, San Diego, and the like. And what happened is wokeness did take over there. The woke mind virus did affect most of those constituents. And so the Republican Party that was against gay marriage, that was passing, Proposition 8, that was against funding illegal aliens in schools and all this sort of stuff, they just got completely morally marginalized. And the party sort of imploded. What is so fascinating is it looks like we're going to see something like that happen at a national level for the left, because the left has gone woke. And now it appears to be, the pendulum is swinging. And even, again, we're even seeing people like Bill Maher and Piers Morgan are like pushing back against wokeness, so that now everyone who was touting wokeness, particularly the political party, will be marginalized into the foreseeable future. That's it. We may end up seeing, just because of the moral shift among the population, we may end up seeing something happening to the Democratic Party comparable nationally, comparable to what happened to the Republican Party in California. That there was such a dramatic pendulum shift, an Overton window shift, morally speaking, that they found themselves completely left out based on their past actions. That may happen again. So there's all these kind of dynamics behind translating local, statewide success and trends into federal results. So that's what we're going to have to do. So absolutely, Chris. So when all said and done, corroborate the polling. Make sure someone's just say, oh yeah, we got one poll, Trump's up 1,000 points, right? Well, okay, show me another one that corroborates that. That's where the RCP, Real Clear Politics aggregate, is so good, because what they do is they average out the polling. So that just gives you a basic sense. Now, again, they could be averaging out crappy polling, but there are pollsters like Rich Barris that I really, really trust. Rich did a great job. Even in 2022, I know a lot of people were upset, but he got a lot of those calls right, and there were a lot of shenanigans. Even Joe Rogan is admitting. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Arizona was so blatant, out in the open, for heaven's sakes. So there were a lot of shenanigans that were going on there. So we got to get past those shenanigans. And that's where I think a massive ballot harvesting strategy, akin to the SoCal ballot harvesting strategy, Southern California, where the Republicans are making a comeback and winning in areas that are +4 Democrat, largely because they're doing ballot harvesting through evangelical churches. Evangelicals vote Republican by 80%. And with ballot harvesting, we found that if they're only coming out in in-person voting at around 40-50% total of their population, with ballot harvesting, we can take a 40 to 50% turnout, turn it into a 90% turnout, with 80% of them voting Republican. And that's how Republicans are kicking the Democrats' asses in Southern California. If we can duplicate that across the country, or most particularly in those battleground states like Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, that we need, that should do it. That should get us, that should break through the ambiguity and this gap between the success we're having at local and regional levels and statewide levels, and the frustrations we're feeling at the federal level. So there you go. So I would just use some kind of corroboration to look at the polls. Make sure you have a wide swath that you look at and get a good sense of it from different sources, because if you have different sources using different methodologies, but they're coming to similar conclusions, that chances are you're dealing with you've hit reality. Everyone's seeing the same thing. And so that's what I tried to give you today. those polls. And then, yes, we're going to have to find some way to bridge that chasm between our local success and federal success. Excellent question, Chris. Well done.